So these are the two Tweed chaps. The one on the left is the 59, the one on the right is the 57, and the one on the right has got those 68K grid stoppers changed out for carbon comps, and the one on the left, those unused secondaries are all taped and tucked away. And the amps are pretty much done, with one thing left to do besides the final playing test. In yesterday's video, I mentioned that the 57 had a JJ tube temporarily because its preamp tube was noisy, and the 59 had, is that right? I always keep flipping them around because they're identical. Tweedledee had a JJ, and Tweedledum had a Psvane. And I mentioned that I'd just gotten the Psvane tube in, and it seemed to have a little bit less gain than the JJ. But it wasn't dramatically lower than the gain from the JJ. And you can have two JJs with different gain levels. You know, preamp tubes are not an exact science unless you have things sorted. So there are two things to consider when you're buying a tube. There's the tube brand, and there's the vendor. So that first Psvane I ordered from CE Distribution along with the power transformer for this amp. And, CE's fine, they carry tubes, and it was a good price on the Psvane, but they don't do any special grading of sorting. Today, to get the 68K resistors, I had to drive out to my buddies at Tube Depot, who are here in Memphis. You know, it's nice to be able to drive to borrow a cup of carbon comp 68K resistors from a neighbor. Excuse me, can I borrow a cup of tone? So it's been very good for me, and I think for Tube Depot that we're in town together. We're kind of in cahoots. But I got these Psvane 12X7s from them, and these are all graded and sorted for high gain. And this one's 100, 105 on the two triodes. This one's 105 and 100. And they're sorted for low noise and microphonics. So the off-the-shelf, just randomly pick a 12X7 was pretty good. Let's see how these sorted ones do in these amps and report back. Like the first one I got from the other vendor, the mica spacers and plates aren't quite straight in the glass. I don't know what's up with that. It's something I've not really seen from other brands, but let's see how they sound. Just, I want to put any information out there I have. It's, my first real experience with them, but now that I have 6 of them to try out, I feel like I can form a better opinion. A sample size of 1 is never very useful. I just cycled all 6 of them through this champ, and my findings, the first one from CE's over here, these 5 are the new ones I just got from Tube Depot. This one on the far right has got the most gain. It's not a ton more than the others, but it's noticeable. These 4 all have the same amount of gain. This one has got slight microphonics, not enough to be a problem in a combo like a Fender, not enough to be a problem in a high gain amp like a Marshall, maybe in an ultra high gain amp like a Soldano may not be the best choice, but it'd be fine in a phase inverter. And the one from CE is just slightly less gain in an amplifier than these. People ask why I don't use tube testers. Number one, I buy from vendors that have tube testers with whom I have good relationships. So if I had a problem with any of these tubes, I'd call my buddies at Tube Depot. They'd swap me out. If I had a problem with any from CE Distribution, I'd call them. They'd swap it out. They'll take care of you. I'm not buying these off eBay. I'm not buying them off Amazon. I'm not buying them from, a really big box store where they just say, okay, they bought item number 47. It's a 12X7. Let's ship it to them. And they may or may not stand behind their work, but you just don't know what tubes you're going to get. Also of note, given the strange photos of the Psvane 12X7s that I've seen, where the glass seems to be really oblong in some cases, this tube here has the most unusual shape to the glass, and it also seems to have the most angle to the spacers within the tube. And that's the one that has the slight microphonics. I don't know that there's any correlation there at all. I don't know if there's any causality there, but there is some correlation. Anyway, I'm going to choose 2 of these. high gain ones and put them in these champs. And the others, I have an amp in progress that they will go into. And even this slightly lower gain one will be absolutely fine. All right, so this is the 57 with the warehouse ceramic speaker. And that's with the volume at 5, so 5 out of 12, so about 10 o'clock. Turn it down to about 3.5. And I have found from some experiments that I did before I started rolling here that both the 57 and the 59 prefer these pickups in this SG, or the sound of the SG in general, to the burst buckers I have in the Les Paul. That's just really thick and really pushes this into a real squash compressed area, both amps. Real nice sustain. There is no tone control on a 5F1 champ, so a lot of the recordings that you hear done with these, the engineer would boost the treble, cut the mids, etc. at the board or in a mic pre or whatever. This is just 57 right pretty much at the edge of the cone and the dust cap. You gets what you gets. Nice little overtone there. That was with the volume at 7 out of 12, so just about 1 o'clock. Let's go all the way up just for a little bit. My hands are a little bit cold, so I don't think I'm going to be busting out the Kid Charlemagne right now. Let's switch to a couple other guitars real fast with the 57. All right, the Les Paul, I think it gets a little too squashed. Just a little too squashed, compressed, a little too fizzy. It's a good guitar, it's a good amp. They don't play well together. Let's go to the Strat. All right, turn it down to 6, which is just about 11 o'clock. Turn it down to 4.5, which is about 9:30, almost 10. Some days I just can't play. This is one of those days. Let me turn up just a hair over that. The amp sounds good. The ceramics speaker sounds really good. It's capable of a wider range of sounds than the Alnico in that it imparts less character itself on the sounds. But for that kind of thing, the 59 with the Alnico is a lot more what you want to hear. And it's easy to say these things. Let me prove it. Let me switch them out. Viola. So a lot of the sound from that particular record is this speaker, and it's nice to have both. I'm hearing a little bit of a rattle, a little ring. Might be the 6v6. I don't think it's a speaker. So both amps are sounding really good. I think the one with the Alnico has a little bit more character. It's a shame the original is gone from the other one. The one with the ceramic, the Warehouse, sounds a little more versatile. That's not always what you want with one of these. Let me let you hear this one with the humbucker. And again, I think the SG sounds better than the Les Paul for these. Yeah, no, Dwayne had a 57 gold top on that album. It sounded fine with the champ. A, I'm not Duane Allman. B, my Les Paul is not 57. Most importantly, I'm not Duane Allman. And remember, this amp is the one with the new power transformer. This is the one that, according to one guy, I ruined. I butchered. I butchered both these amps because they're playable now and they won't catch on fire or electrocute your... So I'm going to track down that little bit of a ring. It might be the 6v6. Maybe something else. We'll find out. A lot of problems only reveal themselves. You play at volume. Speaking of which, I'm looking at the waveform across the room of the two amps. And the new one, not the new one, but the 57 with the new speaker, its waveform goes equally above and below the 0 point. So it's going up and down around 0 by about the same amount. This one with this speaker is going more down than up. I confirmed that it's wired correctly according to the polarity. That's interesting. I wonder what's causing that. It doesn't really matter too much. I can tell you that the output of the Warehouse speaker is a lot louder than the output of this old Alnico. It's a lot of fun.